Joins me now from the lobby of the House of Commons. I mean, I know you thought Theresa May's deal was pretty awful, so just explain where this now leaves us.
Well, I think it's a very interesting development. Good afternoon. And I think it's actually very welcome, because it looked as if the same deal being brought back to the Commons yet again for the third time was going to be voted down for the third time, which I think seemed a pretty pointless exercise. So I think the Prime Minister can now go to the Council on Thursday with some real asks. I think she needs to make it very clear to them that it is currently the law of the land that we will leave at 11 o'clock on the 29th, which is Friday week. And that should concentrate minds. I've been party to the talks on the alternative arrangements, handling issues like the customs arrangements on the Northern Ireland border, and they formed a key part of what became known as the Malthouse Compromise. I think now is the time to talk about the proposals there, one of which that we discuss rapidly, an exchange of documentation allowing the GATT Rule 24 to be triggered, allowing zero tariffs, zero quotas continue, while the two entities, the UK and the EU, discuss a long-term free trade agreement, quote, for a reasonable length of time, which can actually be up to 10 years. So this could be a real game changer. At last, we could get some really interesting issues discussed. As we know, EU negotiations always go to the wire, but we now have 11 days to get something sensible done. And if we did that, we would honour the absolutely clear promise to 17.4 million people to leave. We would honour all those Conservative voters who were promised that if they voted Conservative, we would leave, by leaving the single market, leaving the customs union and leaving the remit of the ECJ.
But is it your view that
would be very good for confidence in our democratic institutions, which are under real threat at the moment?
Is it your view that Theresa May's deal is now dead?
Well, I think it is, because I just listened to some of the points of order. I was just trying to get in myself before I came on here. The Speaker made it very clear that there's got to be substantial textual changes of real substance. And that probably means text agreed by the European Union, not just a few partial fiddles. So I think on that basis, if he does not allow it to come back, there is then no basis to have a bill, the so-called Wade Bill, which would have to be based on the agreement. There's a real chance now to do something really exciting and really positive.
Well, leave the EU on the 29th of March without a deal. Is that what you mean?
No, you always talk about without a deal. No, there is already a deal. We've agreed deals on aeroplanes, on some of the stuff in the city, on insurance, on cabotage, on drivers, etc. What we made very clear in the Malthouse Agreement is that we have an interim period of status in which everything continues for a bit, but we do have a clear end point. And that, I think, would bring certainty. But one thing we do not want is a huge, long extension with this whole ghastly nightmare going on for another 2 years. That would be very unpopular in the country. I think probably would not get through Parliament either.
But realistically, what are the chances of the EU agreeing to extra time on the basis that you are bringing forward a whole new deal?
I think the EU has got to face the reality that the current deal, which was extraordinarily disadvantageous for the UK, where law was imposed by 27 countries, where if we didn't introduce that law as they liked, we were under the cosh of the ECJ, where we had no means of getting out, where it cost us £39 billion, where we couldn't do trade deals with other countries, and above all, which broke up the United Kingdom by creating something called a UKNI in breach of the Belfast Agreement. That is, however much they might have liked it and how much the advantage of the EU that was, that deal does look as if it is dead, because it failed by two spectacularly large votes in the House of Commons, and now the Speaker of the House of Commons says it can't come back. So let's look at something constructive which can work, which will be to the advantage of both sides.
And where does this leave Theresa May in terms of where she is with the deal and where she is as Prime Minister?
Sorry, it's a very faint line. I think you said where she is with the deal. Well, as I've said, I think she now actually has a clear run at the Council this week, showing that this deal is dead in the water, and they have to look in short notice at looking at the proposals, which ultimately come down to what we put in the Malthouse Compromise. which is an exchange of documentation allowing a free trade arrangement to be agreed over coming months, and put current arrangements on hold for an interim period.
And she is the Prime Minister to do that, is she?
Well, she is currently the Prime Minister, and she has a majority in the House of Commons when she has the DUP on side. And I think the DUP, you need to obviously ask the DUP. The DUP, I'd have thought, would be pleased with this, because they are very unhappy with the current proposals in the withdrawal agreement.
Owen Patterson, thank you so much for your time.